Well, I'm going to continue with the collective memory of the Japanese in World War II in Asia and Pacific. As I am studying history, of course I need to do some research before, so I was looking for what historians and theorists said about Japanese collective history, and I found out that most of them think that, or conclude that Japan, unlike Germany, has done quite little to acknowledge the past mass atrocity against China and Korea. I don't know if you know the history of World War II in Asia and Pacific that well. That Japan colonized some other countries in the east of Asia, and well, what they did there wasn't that nice. But according to historians, they don't they quite deny that part of their history. They don't acknowledge it as much as the Germans do, and they think that Japan sees, at least the Japanese people see themselves as victims instead of victimizers. They mostly remember like Pearl Harbor, of course, but mostly the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it kind of glosses out what they did and what happened in China and Korea and Korea. So this and Japan's constitutionally enforced pacifism, according to the historians, is explanations for their not acknowledging the mass atrocities by Japan. Well, these historians are mostly non-Japanese, I must add. So I think that Japanese historians might have had something other to say about it, but haven't checked that out yet. Well, this view on Japan's own history kind of made some troubles in the relationship with their neighboring countries, because like Korea and China don't really like that they're kind of forgotten by the Japanese. So this Japan as a victim of the war, people call it damasereta. It's a Japanese term for the Japanese as victims and the common people who were deceived into sacrificing themselves by the military leaders of Japan. And I was wondering if this view on the victimhood of Japan was also depicted in Japanese cinema, which of course is of course about. And I chose to look at Japanese animation movies called anime. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what it is. And if there's some proof, evidence of this victim claims that the historians made in these movies. And I chose anime because it's not only watched by adults, but because they're only watched by children a great deal. And I think that would be interesting to see if these movies have a strong influence on the collective memory of children at such a young age. And since the 1960s, there have been a lot of animated movies about the war. It's actually a whole genre within anime. But the most famous are Barefoot Gen in 1983 and Grave of the Fireflies in 1988. And I think you all remember that 2 weeks ago we already watched a little clip of Bridge of the Fireflies. And both films are semi-autobiographical. And they were seen by millions of Japanese school children, so they're really, really famous in Japan. And I think most people in America who have a little bit of interest in anime have seen them too. And because of their autobiographical nature, the personal memories of the writers of these movies, or actually films, became part of the collective Japanese memory for kids at a very young age. And I think both films quite support this victim narrative that the historians laid out. They have the ability to make the audience, at this moment, identify with the suffering that is seen on the screen. It's film. It's quite horrific what is shown, and the protagonists are children in both films. So, and they are quite portrayed as victims of the war. They are just helpless children, and you could see them as stand-ins for the Japanese citizens in the war, who actually are helpless themselves because they were sacrificed by the military leaders. And this ideology of victimhood and loss is portrayed kind of leaves no place for discussion or critique on the Japanese responsibilities and critique on the society. So it's mostly about the children and how hard they're suffering. And I have these clips, and you should also pay attention to the music in these clips. So we've talked about the effect of music in films, and I think that would be a great example of the shock effect we talked about. So we see how the music is really sad, and the girl's dead, and you see her memory running around, and really brings some emotions in the audience. For me, I don't know how it is for you, but it brought some emotions to me. So I thought it was a good example of what music can do in a film. And you can see it's like these two little kids left alone to fend for themselves. They die eventually from starvation. So it's really the victim point of view. And we also have this movie, Barefoot Gen. It's also about a little kid and in Hiroshima, and he survives the atomic bomb, but he loses his father, sister, and brother in it. Well, family is now dead. Yeah, quite heartbreaking if you see. You feel so sorry for the kid and his mother, and yeah, I think this also shows the victim point of view of this movie. Well, the major objective of these two films were to teach Japanese children that how bad war is, to hate war and to hate the things that war do to the country. And I think that this victim point of view kind of leaves no room for other the other aspects of the war that, the things Japan did to other countries were just as bad as these things. I think that I have another clip. And I wanted to show you this because because this clip shows before the bomb falls, the father tries to explain to his sons what he thinks about the war and who he thinks is fault of all this. And the father thinks that it's not the Americans that are fault. It's their own government, like military leaders. They see themselves as victims of their own military leaders. And that was striking me. I thought that they would blame the Americans more, but they don't. And in the second part of this movie, there's a part 2 of Barefoot Gen, where he, when Japan is occupied by the Americans, and here it's striking that the blame and anger that the father points to the military leaders of Japan are now by Gen turned against the American occupiers. You see, there is some blame to the Americans. They are mad, of course, that the Americans dropped the TPAD, but there's still a lot of blame on their own military leaders. But still no real attention to their own war crimes outside of Japan. So, Great Fire Plaza has been criticized for that they made no reference to Japan's role in instigating conflicts during the war. So Japan actually chooses to see themselves as victims, and I wanted to ask you if you think that why would they be so determined to focus almost exclusively on the events of 1945, and to start a discussion with that. So I wanted to ask your opinions.
Were the films that you explored all from this time period, made during this time period, the late 80s?
Yeah, after the war there were more, actually the 60s it began to become a genre, and kind of died out later. It still exists, but there are not that much movies anymore made by
and you said all of the clips that you have are from filmmakers, it's semi-autobiographical.
Yeah, these two, yeah.
These, okay. That's probably why, I would say, in my opinion, that they focused on the victimization aspect, because they lived through it and it affected their families and personally in some ways.
Yeah.
Did you find examples of, from an outsider's perspective, a Japanese person, maybe more contemporary, or not, someone that didn't live through it, for example?
There are some Siri. It's not really a movie, but a series. I think those are, it's a little bit later. Those are not particularly made by people who lived through the events, but they have this collective memory. So it's basically still the same point of view. There are some differences, of course, but still no real critique on Japan's role in the war. Or at least not, of course, the military leaders, but not on what they did outside of Japan. So I didn't find it. Maybe if someone can find it, I would be happy to hear it, but I didn't find it.
I wonder from a historical point of view, like what would possibly happen to a person like Jen's father, who was pretty much expressing his unhappiness about the Japanese government and what might be the percentage of people in the population who might actually think the same way as he did. I don't think it was high, in my own opinion. I believe that like in the Cold War period, before it all turned out to the atomic bomb, many people were actually supporting the actions of government. It's the same as Nazi Germany. The propaganda just made them all believe that it's the correct thing to do, and they do it for higher reasons that people might actually understand. So
Yeah.
I believe that this kind of behavior is not okay and not normal, and you should be severely punished for it.
I think that maybe you're right. But people were thinking during the war, I don't think they would express it that openly. So what they really thought is maybe, hidden.
I think it's not in the Japanese culture to like express like such controversial views in public.
Yeah.
It's actually like for me it's surprising that he actually like said those things openly.
Yeah.
I don't think
that
I don't
normally
think
they would,
like discuss like
yeah.
even if they don't agree, they just like follow.
But there are a lot of people after the war who share this kind of opinions.
They will ask her find everybody the hero, so
After the war, yeah. No. So, and it's made after the war, so maybe there are some opinions laid into this film that are actually from a later period.
because I was just wondering, I mean, I haven't done any research on it, but I just wonder if there were, even during the war period, there were like precedents of people actually being punished for this kind of behavior, because that would say a lot about what people actually thought about the war. Because obviously movies made after war, whatever, if it's animes or documentaries, they will say something else, obviously. And I thought if maybe any of you might be an expert on Japan in the war period, maybe you know.
I don't know
What was
if
actually
there
people's opinion
were a
about
lot of
this?
people executed or something before.
I live in Japan before, and actually, like talking about the war is really difficult with Japanese. It's basically like in Japanese society. I think like you do not talk about like controversial topics, and like war is still a controversial topic. So you need to like get really close to someone to start talking about that. Another thing is that a lot of things are not mentioned in the book. So actually, like Japanese, like our age, are not even aware about a lot of things what like Japanese were doing during the war. For example,
Left out
like I
of
said,
the books.
yeah, like the issue of like comfort women, like most of them they have no idea what that was, and it's like officially like denied by the government that it never happened.
Yeah.
So it's actually like difficult to talk about the war, but I also like came so found some opinions that like some Japanese think that it's good actually that they lost the war because it helped them to rebuild the country and turn to democracy.
Yeah.
So that's what a few Japanese like told me, that they actually think that it was good for the society to rebuild a completely different nation.
I've spoken to Japanese about that too. They told me that they believe that the economic growth they experienced was pushed by their actual lose in the war. Same thing happened to Western Germany, for example. They got pushed by the victory countries, and that's why they're where they are right now. So I believe that must be true too.
Yeah, but I feel like Germans like that's what you said. They kind of like discuss in the books. They try to kind of like deal with their like history and with the
what's
past.
their guilt
I
and
think
their
like
shame?
Japan
So
just kind of like avoids like all these controversial topics. I think like Germans kind of like dealt with their history and past in a different way. I think than
Yeah.
Japanese.
I'm not sure, yeah. I don't know that many like German war movies where they really express their own.
Well, war in Germany is pretty much a banned topic, as far as I know.
Oh yeah?
It's something that should be spoken of.
Oh, I don't have to say.
I mean, of course it is, and there's books and there's movies, but they are not particularly allowed to get people to details because they want to avoid bringing back Nazi ideology again. Since among all people in Germany, and I know that from personal experience, they
Okay.
still have some kind of nationalism in them. So even now, people who went through Second World War or they were kind of part part of it, so like they were born in the afterward period, they still have kind of nationalism, especially against like East Germany and Eastern countries,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
still
yeah.
applies. So that's why in Germany they have to be really very careful about this topic, because otherwise they might bring the same thoughts back to light again, and they don't want to do that. So in Germany it's a really I think it's pretty much the same as in Japan, it's a really complicated thing, but then the
Maybe
difference between those
generation
two countries is that Germany actually says, okay, yeah, you've done that,
Yeah.
you regret it, you're
And I
sorry.
think that's the younger people in Germany, they talk about it openly.
Oh yeah, well,
So it's maybe also a generation thing. I'm not sure if young people in Japan are also that open about it.
This is basically like not the topic that you like
They just
discuss.
No.
I think. So of course, like if you start like asking questions, yeah, maybe you'll get like some information, but this is like simply not the topic to discuss. For example, I lived in Hiroshima, so of course we wanted to like talk about like atomic bomb and I spoke like people who lived in Hiroshima like for like decades and their families experienced that, but like they have like not so much to say actually. Like I don't know, I just took it that they just don't talk about it.
I also wonder though if it has a lot to do with the U.S. presence in Japan, and for example, like MacArthur taking a picture with the emperor, solidifying his alliance with him, and giving General Tojo all of the blame. So that also, I feel, the Americans also portrayed that. Would you say? MacArthur's also aligning with the emperor, saying he was not responsible, and all responsibility went with the military command.
I think that the collective memory of Japan might be a little bit constructed by the Americans too, yeah.
And the American occupation.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that had some
Actually, a question for you about that. I like the scene back in the older version of the MacArthur movie. The scene when MacArthur asked about his outfit. Why was he wearing cutaway, the jacket that the costume? That came to my mind already when we watched the new version of the Emperor. He was actually all wearing cutaway, and his servants were wearing tuxedo, black tie, yeah. So what does that indicate? Because in the older version, MacArthur is actually asking the Emperor why he's wearing his, not his like traditional costume, but actually just a Western costume cutaway. Have anything to comment on that, Rob?
Well, I think what the emperor is wearing, it's the same, if I'm not wrong, the same costume is wearing in the two encounters between MacArthur and you talk about the Sun, the film The Sun, or which film are you?
Not in both, in the Emperor and
Yes,
other
but this is a
wearing
quite,
they were actually wearing the
it's
West.
an official, Western, yes, but I think this is, you mean he should wear some kind of a kimono or something?
No, it was
no.
more about the
No.
question, because MacArthur raises also the question in the older version, like he raises the question, why are you wearing a traditional costume, but when did they
Maybe he's
apply?
trying, so I don't know, it's just an hypothesis, but maybe he's trying to push him to become more casual. That, as we see in the scene with the photograph.
Oh, yeah.
So becoming human, it means becoming casual, that is wearing a normal suit, and not this starched costume he wears, but which is just, I think, the official way. If you see pictures from the emperor before the war, let's say for something official, meeting with diplomats, like that, this is the suit he will wear. If he's, I mean, under different conditions with his military will wear a uniform, military uniform, riding his white horse, famous photo of his bride. Okay. But there's nothing special. I think maybe, yes, MacArthur is trying to push him, say, okay, we just become human, and then we can talk. Then we can talk. Maybe, I'm not absolutely sure. I would like to say one thing.
Oh, can I just comment about
Yes.
this? Like, so even like in Japan, so of course there are like traditional like clothes for like women and men, but actually in most official occasions, actually it will be more women who wear like kimonos or like traditional clothes. Like men just wear a suit, and this is perceived as formal, even if they're like traditional. It's like still that like women mostly wear traditional clothes. So
Yeah.
for men, like wearing suit is perfectly fine. It's not considered, oh, you are not wearing anything traditional.
No, I like that they actually keep in mind this thing that the cutaway, this etiquette about the French etiquette when a cutaway is worn, when a black tie is worn, and when a white tie is worn. It's in many of the older movies they are actually more precise about when it's worn this clothing, and in the newer movies they might wear a white tie already during the day. But I think in many older movies, not like just relating to these movies, but newer movies they have actually forgot the etiquette, and that was like one thing that struck my eye. Like I would see that actually they are going according to the etiquette. The cutaway is worn before 6, and black tie if it's not so official, and a white tie when it gets to an official dinner. And in a couple movie clips, I have taken actually came to my mind this same question. That's why it was on my mind already. Why this kind of how to dress up in these ways, and that also was a striking point that actually he was wearing more Western style. But yeah, I don't have a history background, so I know something a little bit by etiquette.
But we have Japan as
Just a brief remark on the question of the victims. I completely agree with what you've said. Both things presenting the children as victims, so the child as the absolute victim in such a configuration. Okay, so both things are shot, or the narration is set up from the point of view of the victim. But we should make a difference between victim and, let's say, victimism. Grave of the Fireflies is not at all a victimism film. Why? Because victimism would mean, or means in this context, telling the story from this angle. We Japanese have been the victims of the West, of the Americans in general, in this context. We have been. And in, by contrast, in the Grey Fireflies, the Japanese society is not presented at all globally as victims, because some of them, the children are also the victims, the direct victims of a part of the Japanese society. They are just thrown away from the village, from the family, and also there are some, let's say, some characters, militarists, fanatics. So it's this as a, let's say, humanist, pacifist, it's clear on this issue. Okay, the children are victims, but there is absolutely no trace of victimism. In Barefoot, it's not so clear. This picture, what matters in this picture, not only that, okay, the faces of the soldiers are not very sympathetic, but matters basically is the black soldier. This is, this has, okay, we have been occupied not only by Western power, but, okay, black people. And this is something which in the nationalist discourse is specific, it matters very much. I mean, in the implicit way of saying things, implicating. So that black guy, and the same way, the boy, as they are throwing stones, the representation of the body, yes, it's typical for the neo or new nationalist style in comics, manga. He's tall, he's brave, he's courageous, and okay, the shape of the body. So it's for the list, it's ambiguous. This film, the end, what you show, and it's ambiguous, and it's maybe the difference between the two films.
Yeah.
The message of the other is absolutely clear. As a massive business.
But you asked why 1945? Your original, no, there was an original question. Why would this picture like what happened in 1945? Would argue that it's quite obvious that it's the atomic bomb. Because that was something never seen, never tried.
It's a turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like
I
your
think the first
original
time
question.
there was like something happening on Japanese soil, because most of the war was outside.
Named
Outside of the,
Japanese, so.
yeah. It was the first time that Japan actually was attacked, I guess, by outside forces, and that made a pretty strong impact.
That was from the time that atomic bomb has actually been used in war.
Yeah, but I mean the first time that there was, also before the atomic bomb, there were, like in other bombs, with normal bombs.
Yeah.
It's the first time that citizens were so.
And that's also like easy point, like, how do you say, raise the issue against some other nation, because Japan is the only country that has faced the terror of an atomic bomb. So it's also like, it gives like easier or more powerful way to like get your message through, in my opinion, that they are the only nation that has been affected actually.
You mean it gives them a scapegoat?
It's good, yeah, basically.
To not-
They give the reason to attack the story, so attack with movies like this, maybe what you said, victimization would be more easy to, what's the word? Not allow, but
Depend on victimization instead.
Yes. It's very easy to set up, to build up a victimist discourse on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, of course. Most of the films, or the Japanese films on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, do not do it. Most of them do not do it. And it's interesting to mention that, as far as I know, there is no directly nationalist, neo-nationalist film, Japanese film, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Most of them are on the war in the Pacific or the war in the air, but not on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Almost all the Japanese films I know on Hiroshima and Nagasaki are pacifist films. Sometimes very critical American too, but as strangely enough, as occupiers more than the people who don't belong. Other questions, comments? Yes?
I just want to briefly mention that the critical fireflies is extremely popular in Taiwan during the 90s because like every Taiwanese saw this movie is in our childhood. So we kind of like know this movie before knowing the history of World War II. And I think people VHS
Yes.
we would have a copy of this movie in our house. So I don't know. When I saw it as a child, we strongly sympathize with the Japanese, even though it's contradictory to the KMT's discourse in the textbooks. Yeah.
So it kind of shows how strongly the message comes through to children.
And I think it in some way it constitutes of the collective memory for my generation, and even the candy is very famous here. We will refer it to the candy of this movie, The Great Soul of the Butterflies.
Like the little girl holds that tin, the tin with the.
You know, the Fruit Loops?
Right. And in Taiwan, all across Asia actually, they sell that tin with the little girl's face on it.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, with the fruit drops in it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, it's nice.
could somebody explain why we will not have class next week? I mean, from the Taiwanese part. Can somebody explain why?
We have no class next week.
We have no class next week. It's a day off, it's a day off.
It's a spring break.
It's a day to
Yes, please.
go
Spring
to.
break.
It's traditionally, it's called Tomb Sweeping Festival. You're supposed to go with your family to ancestors' tombs and clean them off for the day. But people do it way before now. People would have done it like a month ago, right, weeks ago.
So you
It's public
confirm
holiday.
that it's a day off? We don't work?
It's a public holiday?
It's closed.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, and Monday are off here. Yes,
Thursday already?
yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's off.
No.
It's not my fault. So, we meet again the week after.
Great.